the big topic today, or all week, has been James Hird well and truly throwing himself into the head coaching role at the Essendon Football Club. And then Brad Scott has had his time to explain his side of events and the way it all played out and his thoughts and theories on where Essendon's heading. So, love to hear from the listeners. 133-693. Are they all for James Hird coaching and how they are seeing it playing out? You don't have to be an Essendon fan, but I think everyone's got an opinion on this.
Yeah, I think the very public PR campaign is what I've been calling it from James Hird. It's been intriguing. First of all, because you wonder how many conversations had happened in the lead up to that amongst club power brokers or, supporters, former players of the club, to put him out there as a preferred option. And also then you've got comments from people such as Ken Hinkley saying, well, he's now one and out. So what does it mean for the other people who may have been interested in the job? Are they now, turned off by the fact that he's very publicly declared that he's interested, and he's got the groundswell of support from a lot of the Essendon faithful who like the idea of going back to James Hird, although, you have a press conference where you sack your coach and then you say, we need a fresh voice. And for me, I immediately go, well, technically that's not him.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of support coming from past Essendon players. Timmy Watson on SEN, and Michael Long has come out today and as well. So that doesn't help anyone else going for the job either when you've got legitimate legends of your club in Watson, and I haven't heard Lloydie's take yet, but Michael Long, that just adds to the whole thing. There's a part of me that thinks this is already sort of done.
Why is that, Richo? Is that off the back of, as we mentioned, Ken Hinkley and even Adam Simpson commenting, well, is it really worth us throwing our hat into the ring?
I think so, but just the whole way it's come out, even with Timmy talking on SEN about James, and then James doing the sort of the sales pitch almost on Footy Classified. I don't think Andrew Welsh was definitive in the press conference of even saying that they were going to have a process. He said, we'll announce that in the coming weeks. Like, you would have thought almost you'd get to that press conference and say, we'll be going through a rigorous process, we'll be finding the best man. They sort of delayed that and said, we'll be announcing that in a few weeks. So it just makes me think that this Hird thing's already
surely a club like Essendon that's had all of the issues that it's had needs to have a proper selection process for the next coach.
I think so, but I think, as a lot of these guys have said, it doesn't feel like it will be because of the support won from the fans. It's a groundswell of support. Every Essendon fan I've spoken to today, bar one, I reckon I spoke to 6 or 7, they all wanted James Hird to be appointed coach. So you've got all of those fans, and I'd be surprised if it wasn't well over 50% of the fans, probably more up towards 75%, and all of the past players that I'm talking about, they're all coming out publicly. Gee, it makes it tough for someone else going for the job.
So Rich, I'll ask you from this point of view, and I'll frame it from say you're an old Tigers man, and Richmond have gone through, if they went through the same thing, it sounds like Hirdy has pricked the emotions of a lot of Essendon faithful, and they've been down and out, and I guess that's part of the groundswell that, hey, here's a guy whose DNA is Bombers, and he wants to do everything he can to get the club back and going. And this is off the back of having, one of better words, outsiders coaching. There's outsiders coaching everywhere, and I think that's what Sheeds is alluding to. Well, he's one of us. And, the corporates are involved, and the fans are involved, and the supporters involved. If that was a Richmond situation, would you want one of the old boys?
Well, Richmond went through that in the 80s, where they kept appointing former players as coaches. They had Paul Sproul, they had Mike Patterson. Tony Jewell came back for a second crack after winning the flag in 80, came back in 87. And then, of course, the great Kevin Bartlett came. So Richmond did try that for a number of years.
Tony Jewell,
Yeah, TJ and Paul Sproul, Mike Patterson. So they went for past players 3 or 4 times in a row, the Tigers. So, clubs have done it in the past. But you look at all the really successful recent coaches, and you think of probably Clarkson at Hawthorn, Hardwick, what he did at Richmond, Craig McRae at Collingwood, he's won a flag and been pretty successful in his time. John Longmire, all these guys were outsiders that were first-time coaches that were very successful. So that works. That's got good history of working. So I look at Essendon, and like you, Laura, I think they should go through a proper process. You never know. Like Stephen King, look what Melbourne have found with him.
So Hirdy did declare on Footy Classified on Tuesday night. He actually called for the rigorous progress. So he goes through it and he wins.
I think that's okay if he
That's fine.
goes through the process. I don't think anyone could argue if he's decided he's the best man for the job.
On face value, if they do go through the process, right, and they advertise it, and John Longmire puts his hat into the ring, it's going to be it's hard to see how James Hird could beat John Longmire. He's a premiership coach. They played finals every year that he was there, just didn't they? So like
there's no doubting his success at
the CV's not going to stack up, is it? If you're putting them together,
it depends what their criteria is and what they're looking for. So, which I can help give you a little bit of insight after sitting on one of those coaching panels.
I'm not saying Hirdy can't coach, but I'm saying John Longmire's a premiership coach and coached the Swans to finals every single year.
And lots of grand finals.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is that Carlton's just announced their panel for their coaching selection. So it'll be Graham Wright and Chris Davies who are running things there at the moment. Blues president Rob Priestley. Adam Simpson rounds out the group. And then in consultation with football director Greg Williams, who will identify a preferred candidate to take to the board for approval.
So they've gone internal. All those gentlemen have got some sort of role at the Carlton Football Club. Let's get to our callers. You can join them on the Nick Theodosi open line anytime, 133 693. Up first is Bruce. Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening, team. I love your work.
Thanks.
Now, Essendon are looking for a messiah to take them out of the doldrums, and they think the favourite son may be able to do that. But I don't think he will, Jimmy, because lack of experience. And the fact is the current players lack skills. Now, you have all these coaches in Essendon currently that can't get their skills up. Now, we've had coaches in the past that may be great players, but they're not good communicators, Jimmy. And we'll say Tony Shaw, we'll say Kevin Bartlett, he got the lemonade and sauce.
He did.
Because they may not be, and look, hey, he wants to get back in the game like anybody because you get $800,000 or $1 million a year. Now, let's be real. Talk money. It's all about getting in the money, being in the game. Now, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you make some great points there, Bruce. I don't think James Hird short of $1, so he's not doing this to get a good pay packet. It's been reported, I'm not flying kites here. He's going to sell his very successful business for good coin, and he's been pretty smart about it. So he's not motivated by money, the coaching dollar. I think, just before I get your thoughts, Richo, that a bit of a difference since KB and Shorey is there'll be more than just James Hird as a change at the Essendon Football Club. When you looked at Craig McRae when he came in, they surrounded him with some very experienced assistant coaches. Lepage, Bolton. I'm going to be forgetting one in there, but there was another very experienced campaigner in there. So what clubs do is when the coach changes, there's normally 2 or 3 other changes. Carlton are going to do that already because they've got no list boss, no recruiting manager, and, of course, no coach. So I think there'll be multiple changes. Going to your point, Bruce, that there'll be people coming in to help address some of those other issues.
So you don't have an issue, Jim, with Hirdy not being full-time at an AFL club for a decade now. He did spend a little bit of time at the Giants when Spike McVeigh was the caretaker there.
He's been at Port Melbourne coaching at VFL level.
It's a bit different to AFL level, though.
It is. Look, I'll declare I'm a little bit biased because I spent a couple of days a week with Hirdy. Wednesday.
So you're not worried about not being at the coalface the last 10 years at an AFL club?
Look, I'm not saying my opinion carries any weight, but my thoughts is he's as sharp as ever regarding football. Like, I sit there and watch football with him. We spend pretty much all the Sunday watching games, and the way he articulates the game, he sees it still as good as anybody else. So, but that's from someone who has a working relationship with him in a media forum. And again, I'm not sure whether that carries any weight, but that's just my own, I guess, personal experience. Deb's up next. Good evening, Deb.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Look, I follow Essendon, have for a long, long time. I'm in my 70s, and my dear dad did for 80 years. But I don't want James Hird back. We are a broken team. We are highly damaged, and we need new blood starting from the top. It's going to get too political. It's going to get too ugly and passionate if he gets the expectations of him. There was an issue. I don't fully blame him for what happened. I think that was a bigger picture and touched a lot of places. I won't get into that.
Yep.
And there was a crucifixion very nicely on James Hird. That affected his mental health. God love him. I think I love my team, but I watch them now and there is no fire, there is no passion. We are rudderless. So we need someone new in, start afresh, cull a lot of the senior players and let the young'uns start as young bloods. I know you can't have it like when Kevin Sheedy took over, and talking in the 80s, which was, a wonderful time for me as a fan. But it can be done. But I think it would be wrong for him and for the club. We are chaotic at the moment.
So, Deb, there's the other point of view, and I spoke to a lot of Essendon fans today. I just seem to have a lot of Essendon mates, and they've all come round to the fact that they think that they have to go with James now. Their opinion was that if you went with a new coach like a Corey Enright or whoever it is,
James Kelly, whoever.
The next Stephen King, whoever that is, that they would come in, and if things weren't going right and they'd got the job over James Hird, that it's still going to be there. The spectre of Hird, he's still going to be floating around, and it's going to hurt a new coach.
Peter, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, guys, good evening. Richard, just regarding what you said about Longmire and the Collingwood coach, I forget what his name is, those teams didn't bottom out. Craig McRae. Those teams didn't bottom out. They were handball the team. They were middle class. Essendon has bombed out.
Collingwood was 7-8. Collingwood was 7-8.
2 years before, they were in the grand final and they lost, 2 points, yeah?
Yeah.
He got you there.
That's fair.
Well played, Peter.
But what's your point, Peter?
That's his point.
Team. They weren't a broken team. Essendon's broken. Essendon's a broken team. They've got players that can play, but they're a broken team. And the only way of getting players to play good is inspiration. There's no point of training them. They know how to play. They need inspiration. These guys need inspiration.
So don't you think wouldn't Longmire come in?
Bring the insulin.
Wouldn't Longmire come in with his experience and help lift a team, though?
Yes. So when do we expect Essendon to win a final then? What happened with Carlton, with Malthouse? What happened? He lasted 3 years out of a 5-year contract. They expected him to come in, flip the team into a grand finalist, yeah? It's not going to happen with Essendon. It's going to take time.
I agree that just because you get a premiership coach in, it's not going to work second time around. In fact, it normally doesn't. Mick Malthouse won a second premiership at Collingwood after the Eagles, but history says that doesn't work either.
Strong call, Peter. You're in the running for that Harvey Norman gift card, which is tonight's best gross ever $100 gift card. Thanks, Harvey Norman. Shop hot deals on big screen TVs now at Harvey Norman. Michael's up next. Good evening, Michael.
Yeah, g'day guys. How are you?
Good, Michael.
I'm a Bombers fan. I've been listening to you while I'm driving home from work, and I just wanted to chuck me 2 cents in. I don't know that much about footy. I just follow the Bombers, and I have a look every week. I reckon James Hird should come back. As the last bloke was saying, we're a broken team, and I was happy to hear what he was talking about James Hird and his business. It sounds like he got his life back on track. But in terms of football, he's starting from the bottom as well. I don't reckon there's a better bloke that you could put in that seat. I reckon the process of voting in a coach and having all these big discussions about it, they've done that for however many coaches we've had over the last 15 years, and it's gotten us nowhere. I think to heal from the trauma of everything that happened, I reckon James Hird's the best thing. Whether or not he takes us to the finals, I don't care. I just want to see him back in the driving seat. And the other thing is when the whole supplement saga went down, and I still believe it today, Essendon may have been caught out, but they were not the only teams that would have been living on the edge of what we can and can't do in a game of footy.
Thanks for your call, Michael. Susan's up next. Good evening, Susan.
Hi, how you going? It's
great, thank you.
Here. I just want to say, bring him back home, mate. I don't care if any coaches out there wanting to coach Essendon. Don't bother. We want Scott back. Yep, he's God to us.
Susan, why do you want James Hird at the helm so badly? Is it because of the fact that he clearly still loves the club? Is it because what he did for the club? Why do you want him so badly?
Because in Kevin Sheedy's words, we need love back. We are broken. The supporters are broken-hearted with everything that happened to him. I am 60-plus years of age, and I have been an Essendon supporter since I was a kid. I've been around. I've watched that champion play on the MCG. It's just, he's a beautiful person, and he's smart. He's together. He's gone through great pain, like a lot of it, but he's come out. We want him back. I will be the first person at Tullamarine if he comes back. And there's no if. Like I said, any other coaches thinking of coming, don't bother. We don't want you. We want him.
I love the passion, Susan. I love that
So,
passion.
Jimmy, it's done.
This is what it's
James
I agree
Hird's
with
going to
you.
be the next coach of Essendon. The groundswell of the supporter base, as I said, I haven't heard anyone today except one guy saying they don't want him.
I thought David King wrote a good article in the Herald Sun, and he said, well, yes, get Hird back, but don't do the rigorous process, or just Andrew Welsh should just tie himself to the James Hird decision. Go, look, I'm making the decision, and if it doesn't go well, I'll go.
I think it's pretty easy. Even if they do have a process, I'm going to be pretty surprised how many guys put their hand up to go through it now. I mean, if they're listening to all this and the supporters...
Well, Susan ran the process already.
She has. I agree, though. Someone needs to be accountable. If it does go that way, someone needs to be accountable for that decision, depending on the process that they do or don't run. And if you're Carlton... Are you licking your lips a little, knowing that you don't have the competition? When you think about it, because they're not interested in James Hird.
But they could be in the market for completely different things.
I reckon they are.
Yeah, and I think
But there's no competition, I mean, with if Essendon doesn't go down the path of trying to find the best assistant out there.
Yeah, true.
It's
a good point.
Do you think he's going to coach Essendon?
Well, just going off the supporter base.
It's a yes, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's just going off people who live and breathe, like Susan and others we've had, who, they got red and black pulsing through their veins. If you went off that, he's a clear favourite.
Can you remember any other time
this kind of support
where this has sort of happened? For a club wanting a coach and they're almost demanding it, the supporter base.
No, I can't.
I can't remember it.
Well, luckily we've got Bruce Ever and Anthony Hudson joining us later, and they're great at this sort of historical context. Andrew's up next. Good evening, Andrew.
Evening, gents. How are you?
Great, thank you.
I'll probably come at this at maybe a slightly different direction, but still with a little bit of emotion as a Bombers supporter. In my opinion, the club needs to focus on its culture. If you look back over recent history where they've lost some key players that were at their prime, so think of guys like Draper or Danaher, in my opinion, losing players like that is one of the biggest challenges that needs to be resolved and addressed. And I think the focus needs to be on developing a culture amongst the team, amongst the players, and amongst the support coaches where people want to be there. And I think that's more important at this stage for Essendon than a game plan and skills. You've got all of the other coaches there that can focus on game plan and skills, but you need someone to bind them together and create that. This is a destination club the way it has always been.
And that's what I was pointing to, Richo. It'll be more than James Hird that comes in. Football clubs don't just appoint coaches. They come in on a ticket, or they've got a plan of how they want to do things, because part of doing the pitch as a coach, you're selling what your football department is.
So Dean Solomon, obviously the interim coach, they've got a very good relationship. So how much does that play into it as well, the two of them?
Oh, yeah, and Solly's a great assistant coach, so he's got a big job to do the next 12 weeks, but I'm sure he'll be part of that. I've got one, and a mate of mine, Ralphie Horowitz, texts through, Paul Roos. Remember, Terry Wallace had the job at Sydney, and then the Bloods faithful, they wanted Paul Roos. So there has been another situation like this.
Good man, Ralphie. We love when he joins in on the show. My apologies. I thought Beaver tonight, but clearly because we're building up to the Saints and Hawks, he has a cashy here, there and everywhere. So Tim Lane will be joining Hutto in commentary.
You know what? Tim Lane will know.
Tim Lane will know.
Tim Lane will know.
Well, Roosie's definitely won.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Andrew, and thanks for the text, Ralphie. Shane's up next on the Nick Theodosi Open Line. Evening, Shane.
How are you all?
Great, Shane.
That's good. I definitely think James Hird needs to come back to the club. I think the players are not playing for the club or the coach. That's why Brad Scott was no good. He was not emotional. The players were all disconnected. They when Zach Merritt was going to leave and a lot of other players left, they all just lost their way. We need someone like James Hird, who's a past player, who will bring everyone back together and make the club great again.
It seems that Shane and
just
Richard,
got to announce it pretty soon. Then I think the Bombers.
It seems that is the overriding emotion from people connected to Essendon, Laura, and Richo is that they just want to be pumped up and proud, and they're not even talking about. I don't think I've ever heard of them, hey, we need to be playing finals in a year or 2 years. It just sounds like they want to go to the footy and feel like they can stand on top of their chair and wave their scarf again.
Be proud again.
Yeah.
Well, Zach Merritt was asked about James Hird when he had that, ill-timed beer opportunity on the Tuesday night that happened to fall when Brad Scott lost his job. And, he said he had a great relationship with James Hird. He was very positive about him. And obviously, he's not the one that makes the decision. Didn't say whether it would keep him at the football club, but certainly seemed to sing his praises in terms of returning to that kind of role.
Thanks for the call, Shane. Time for Joe. Good evening, Joe.
G'day, Jimmy. How you doing? All the others?
Good, Joe. Yourself?
Since this all started, people have been ringing up saying we should get someone from outside. Some people have. Now, I went back on the stats and had a look at the win-loss rates of the past 6 coaches, which included James Hird and also Bomber Thompson. And the others were all outside guys, Brad Scott, bloody Ben Rutten and all that.
Knights, Worsfold.
And the two blokes who had the better win-loss ratio were Bomber Thompson and Hird. I think we need Hirdy back, purely and simply because he loves Essendon. The others were outsiders. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that, again, that's a pretty consistent theme. G'day, Peter.
Guys, thank you for taking the call. Love the panel. 4 points for Hirdy and 1 qualification to be aware of. So, Hirdy, if you remember his last performance at Essendon, he had amazing ability to motivate the players. The players used to come off the field, and the love they were showing for him was phenomenal. That's players playing for the coach. Secondly, Hirdy's a very intelligent guy. Thirdly, Essendon does not have a list. You need someone who's a motivator. We play this game, we say, is 80% above the shoulders. Hirdy can play in that space, motivate the players, a team that is not so good to lift. Fourthly, when you lift that team, all you have to do is get them to play finals to give the people hope. And Hirdy can do that. He may not take them to a premiership, but he will lift them enough that the fans have hope that they may play premiership. The only qualification is, can he separate himself from his business interests, which do not take a part-time commitment, to fully dedicate himself to the coaching job?
Great points, Peter. I think I read in the paper that he's looking to exit from his business interests. Of course, he's been pretty successful in the funds management space, so he's looking to offload that at the moment. So thanks for the call, Peter. Tim's up next. Good evening, Tim.
G'day, boys. Thanks for taking the call. I'm not an Essendon supporter. I'm a North supporter, and I've seen all this before. He broke us. Brad Scott broke us when he was at North by treating players that were respected and loved with contempt in Boomer, Michael Ferrito and Drew Petrie. The way that he treated Dyson Heppel at Essendon, he lost the senior players. He breaks clubs. The second part is there's no success unless you've got alignment. And Essendon aren't aligned. And the only way they're going to get alignment is to get Hird back and bring everybody together.
That's a great point.
The alignment point.
The alignment is huge.
And that's what I saw at Richmond with their turnaround.
But there wasn't alignment when Brad Scott was appointed.
No.
So
Sheets right from day one.
Yeah. So they didn't have alignment on that from the start of Brad Scott's tenure. So you wonder how much of an impact that played. And I guess hindsight is always 20/20, as they say. Matthew. Peter's up next. Lots of Peters tonight. Good evening, Peter.
Peter.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Pete.
Yeah, so long-time Bombers supporter. I've seen it. Lucky to game, I was just like, something's got to change. And I heard Dermot Breton saying when they ran out, just the way they ran out on the field, it just didn't look like AFL standard. And when he said it, I was thinking the exact same thing. But I knew something needed to change. But I definitely agree with bringing James Hird back. When I heard him talk the other night, he had that inspiration. I think the team needs it. But I also think that they need to, because I would say Zach Merritt is going to move on, and I reckon Toby Green could come into the Bombers as well with James Hird. Because James Hird presented Toby Green his jumper, and he's always been a mentor of him, so I think they'd be a good duo.
That'd be a massive get for the Bombers if they could snag Toby Green.
So how many calls have we had now? 10 to a dozen?
Yeah.
And we've had one. I think we've had one saying no to James Hird. So it's 95% yes rate here, Jim.
Well, let's keep them going. Richo. Luke's up next. Good evening, Luke.
Evening, gents. How are you?
Great, thank you. And Laura?
I guess I'm in the no camp. Yeah, I guess I'm in the no camp, only because I think all the Essendon supporters need a bit of a dopamine hit and a bit of love after the pain. And I think we've got to look a bit more long-term. He's been out of the game for a long time. And whenever you get somebody coming back who's doing it for themselves, I think it's a very dangerous mix. He wants the comeback story. He wants a Netflix special on himself. But I think the game's moved past him, and we need to look at something that's more long-term.
Thanks for your thoughts, Luke.
I agree with that a little bit. I think there's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of sentiment that's attached to this. And so, Jim, you've been on a coaching panel before. How much can you let all this emotion play into a decision like this?
Well, that's what you got to do. You got to actually separate the emotion out of it.
But that's what I mean. This is a lot of emotion.
Oh, it is. And it's fresh and new, isn't it, the last few days? So everyone's getting that little hit and excited about it.
Be a good doco too on Netflix.
Yeah. But my,
by the way,
my other question is, like, if you you've got to eat and breathe it, right?
Yep.
To be a senior coach, it's all consuming. How come Hirdy hasn't been wanting to coach the last 10 years? So surely if you're passionate about coaching, you would have been coaching.
Is he just passionate about coaching the Bombers?
So he's only passionate about coaching Essendon, or is he actually passionate about coaching? I don't know James very well, but you spend time with him.
No, I think he stated that on one of the forums he's on. He's passionate about coaching Essendon. And look, you could explain that, and I'm not doing lobbying for Hirdy, but you could actually explain why he hasn't. You know, clearly the aftermath of the previous Essendon time, you need some water going under the bridge.
Yeah.
Dipped his toe back in the water at the Giants, and then obviously grew the passion through Port Melbourne, which started off as an interest because one of his sons is there.
Son's captain, isn't he?
Yep, and it's gathered and gathered and gathered. So, look, I think there's always an explanation for things, but reasons why not as well. Richo, Alan is up next. Good evening, Alan.
Well, I think he's one of the most self-absorbed, egocentric, selfish people in football. I'm sure inner people who know him, a lot of you, and you talk about him being successful in business, chocolates, what else he had to go at? He's been non-successful, and he's seen an opportunity. He's hung back like a jackal, and now he's destabilised with Sheedy and all the rest of them that think they're the messiahs. And the poor people at Essendon are going to pay for this because it's all about James Hird and it's all about power. And this is his income. This is great for him. This is a steady income that he hasn't been able to generate since he left football. That's what I think.
Alan, do you barrack for the Bombers?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, wow.
No. I was just getting your point of view because we've had a lot of Essendon supporters ringing.
He wrecked our club.
No, I appreciate your strong comments.
There would be people in the fan base that can't look past that because it was such a tumultuous time for the football club. It really was. And, you know, that will always be there as part of his legacy. We know he's a champion footballer, but that time will always tar the football club, unfortunately. It's just... That's why I think, the emotion of all of this is really driving what's happening, and whether or not that's the reasons you'll appoint a senior coach is to be seen.
Thanks for your call, Alan. Ross is up next. Good evening, Ross.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Listen, I reckon that the Essendon board should just absolutely come clean and say that they've already gone through the process of making James Hird the coach of Essendon next year, instead of using their smoke and mirrors and saying, they're going to go through due process. It is lay down there that James Hird will be the next coach of Essendon, and I think that the board should actually own up and say, we've already made that decision.
Thanks, Ross. You share those thoughts.
I've got to be honest.
Well, you get that whiff, don't you?
I just driving in here today, and I just looked at it all. Longy coming out, and obviously you got Timmy and past greats and Sheeds. And then, James on footy. I just thought, geez, maybe it just came. I thought maybe this is already sort of done. It's already been in the pipeline. I don't know that. It's just a feeling.
You get that sort of whiff about it.
I've got that feeling, the same as the caller.